Picture this, a perfectly running ship, cargo flowing like clockwork, everything on schedule. I mean, from the outside, the global shipping industry is an absolute marvel of precision. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the story that isn't logged in any spreadsheet, the quiet, very human cost of keeping those massive ships moving.
It all starts with these three little words, all good. That's the official report you get. On video calls home, they're smiling. In messages to the office, everything is totally under control. But it's an illusion.
Because here's what's really going on behind the scenes. The ship is moving, the KPIs are all green, the paperwork is perfect. Operationally, nothing is wrong. But the person at the very heart of that operation, they're running on fumes. And it's that gap, the one between the data and the person, that's what we're digging into.
So this brings us to what our source material calls the all-good illusion. It's this culture of surface-level perfection that's been built on a mountain of data that seems to measure everything. Well, except for the one thing that might actually matter most.
And just look at the level of detail we're talking about. The industry demands insane precision. Physical assets are tracked with just incredible detail. We've got graphs within graphs for fuel consumption and checklists that are literally longer than a novel. This obsession with numbers, it creates this powerful sense of total control.
But what about the people running the whole show? Suddenly, all those precise metrics, they get a little fuzzy, a little optimistic. And that's not just a blind spot, it's a really dangerous one.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the spreadsheet view. Rest hours are compliant. All the KPIs are green. And on the right, you have the human reality, structural fatigue, and a professional persona that's working overtime just to hide the cracks. So how can this gap even exist? Well, it relies on this core psychological concept, the persona at sea. And this isn't about being fake or dishonest. It's a survival tool.
So here's the crucial point. This persona, the unshakable captain, the always-on chief engineer, it's a tool. It is designed for high-stakes performance. But it's a tool that's never meant to be put down. And it's built for output, not for recovery.
And when that persona is worn for months on end, it starts to crowd out the actual person underneath. It pushes away the very things that make us human, our personality, our curiosity, the ability to express doubt, and, maybe most importantly, our vulnerability.
This right here is the language of the persona. It's such a subtle but critical shift. It's manageable, sounds professional, it sounds competent. I'm struggling, well, that sounds like a problem. So the persona always chooses the path of least resistance, even when it's not the truth.
And let's be clear, this isn't just an individual choice. This is a systemic issue. Fatigue in this industry isn't some dramatic failure. It's structural. It's the quiet, accepted default setting, and it's driven by long contracts, short manning, and just impossible port schedules.
I mean, what a powerful metaphor. Think about that. We invest a ton of money in tech to monitor the health of one piece of machinery, a single engine bearing. But the human being, the central processing unit of the entire vessel, is just expected to self-diagnose and carry on. The monitoring systems are, well, strangely selective.
And that's exactly why it's so often missed. We expect burnout to be this huge, catastrophic event, but it almost never is. It's a quiet, slow erosion of performance and, just well-being.
It shows up in these small, subtle ways. Little mistakes, a moment of hesitation when a quick decision is needed, an officer who used to be really engaged in discussions now just stays quiet. And all the while, that persona is working even harder to project an image of complete control.
Okay, so is the industry doing anything about this? Well, yes, there is a shift happening. The human factor is, for the very first time, actually making its way onto the official checklist.
We're seeing new frameworks, like the updated Sitter 2.0 inspection protocol, finally treating things like fatigue management and psychological well-being not as soft issues, but as critical operational risk factors, right up there with hull integrity and engine performance. And that's a huge step forward.
But, and this is a really big but, a framework is not a culture change. You can't just audit your way out of a problem that's been decades in the making. A new checklist doesn't just magically make people feel safe.
Which means the real work has to happen beyond the audit. It's going to require a deeper, more fundamental shift in how the industry thinks about its people.
So, how do you get rid of the persona? Well, you don't force it away. It disappears on its own when the environment is safe enough for the real person to finally show up. This is what psychological safety actually is in practice.
And this is exactly what that safety looks like. It's when an honest statement about being exhausted is met with support, not suspicion. It's when admitting a human limit isn't seen as a career-limiting move.
Ultimately, this is the uncomfortable truth we're left with. No matter how advanced our systems get, ships are run by people. Resilient, resourceful people who have learned to say "I'm fine" in 7 different languages, even when they know they're not. Which leaves us with a really powerful question for everyone working at sea. When was the last time you said "I'm fine" when you really weren't?
And for those ashore, in management, in operations, the challenge is different. It's about breaking the cycle. What if, instead of always asking when is the ETA, the more important question was, how are you holding up? Asking a different question, well, that could be the start of a real solution.